A couple of weeks ago, I happened to be on vacation on some Greek island, and I posted an Instagram reel of like, hey, this is the creator life. I'm working on my iPad and stuff. And there were a few comments from people being like, I'd love to live this sort of lifestyle, but I just don't know where to start. You know, if we imagine 99.9% of people listening to this, if you told them they could make 6 figures a year doing what they love, they'd be like, mind blown, would absolutely love that. So I wonder if we can kind of explore that 0 to 6 figure jump or sort of process. Let's say someone has got a full-time job. Let's say they're working in, I don't know, consulting or something corporate, and they love the idea of, I want to make a living doing what I love. How would we break that down?
And this is under the assumption that they hate doing what they're doing.
Yes.
I was like, because I always like to be clear. I was like, I've got employees that make $1 million a year plus. So like, you can absolutely become filthy wealthy, and that's income, right? And so a lot of businesses that are at $10 million a year, the owner might only take $1 million in income, depending on, margins, et cetera. And so like, a lot of employees will they see top line as income, which is just a very employee mindset. They're like, oh, if I make 6 figures a year, I'll make 6 figures a year. It's like, well, if you really want to make 6 figures a year, I'll probably make 500 grand a year. You know what I mean? Revenue wise, at least. If you don't want to have just bought yourself another job, right? Because so let's talk through this transition. So if you're an employee, when you make the switch, you're still an employee. You're just an employee of a different business that you happen to own, and you are basically 100% of the expenses. And so the business itself actually makes no money. You, as the sole employee of that thing and the boss, gets to call your own shots, but you were still the employee, right? So you're wearing all the hats, et cetera. And so it's relatively nuanced. You know what I mean? Like if you had a 6-figure consulting job and then you start consulting on the side, for example, through your own LLC, you have the same job. You just got rid of the person who was giving you direction, and now you are responsible, right? The thing that most people have to do is they have to go get money, right? You have to go make money. And the way you do that is you sell stuff, right? And the way that you can even begin the conversation to sell stuff is that you have to have people who show interest in the thing, which means you have to make your products known. And we do that through advertising, right? And there's 5 ways to advertise, which I just went over earlier. And so it's like, pick one of those 5 ways, start doing it on a consistent basis, bring people in. What do you sell them? That's what the $100 million offers book is for. Is like, this is how you figure out what to sell. And then you sell them the thing. And then after that, you'll have some delivery. Now, usually if you have a consistent method of advertising and selling with a what to sell from the offer, then you can start getting people to help you on the level of delivery you have, which comes down to breaking the delivery into chunks rather than holistically, and saying, how can I specialize the labor? Because you trying to say, I just need somebody to do what I do is silly, right? You need to figure out, how can I get 5 people to do 20% of what I'm doing and do it consistently, right? And then you can increase your advertising. Sales is a very high leverage thing in the beginning. If you spent all day selling, just you would have enough for 5 people to do work, right? And so then you would have a business,
So let's say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, all right, cool. I know, I've read Alex's book. He's telling me I've got to sell a thing. I don't know what to sell. I don't know if I have any skills. I don't know what I could possibly offer to the world.
Yeah.
How do we break that down?
Yeah, this is actually a topic that I cover more in the Leads book that's coming out soon. Soon, relative terms, 6 months-ish. Everybody knows something, all right? And so the idea is, what do you have? Like, everyone has unique depth of knowledge in certain areas because you've been alive and your eyes and ears have taken inputs, period, right? And so I like to think of people starting, like, so if you look at, are you familiar with Y Combinator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So Y Combinator is one of the most successful, I don't know if they're technically VC. They're, seed capital, startup investors in Silicon Valley. And they have a very standard deal structure, and they have criteria for what they look for in companies. And one of the most important criteria that they look for is past experience. And so they're okay with somebody who's super young, et cetera, but they want you to have experience in the industry because there's just so much ignorance debt that you have to pay down if you literally know nothing about an industry. Like, there's just so much, like, if your dad was a mechanic, you know so much about cars just by osmosis of being around a mechanic for 18 years. And so I like to think, past jobs you've held, you will know stuff about that industry. The jobs of your parents are things that you will know about that industry. And then you've got personal interests. And so I think that if I had to put those into 3 buckets, it's like parent stuff, past jobs of self, and current interests. And so it's like, of those 3 things, which of those 3 buckets do you think you could help someone do a thing better? And so the idea is, you want to sell the most valuable thing. right? And so the most valuable thing is, what is the problem that I can help somebody else solve that I could charge the most money for? Or in reverse, that could make them the most money. And then I will be able to charge a percentage of the money that I'm able to make somebody else in this thing. Now, that's in a B2B setting. In a B2C setting, it would be, how valuable do people perceive the problem that they have as, right? Whether it's like, I can teach music, tons of people want to be able to learn how to, and if you're better, because you've had a side interest in that, awesome. Maybe you have a side interest because you're really good at editing the songs. Well, there's tons of musicians who hate that part and would love to have it. So it's like, we all know how to do stuff, and all we have to do is package the thing that we're doing. And I think the big problem is that people expect that they're going to have a perfect business. But if you look at the track record I can't think of an entrepreneur besides Jeff Bezos, who's a freak of nature, whose first business becomes the most valuable business in the world. Is most people have a graveyard of failures behind them. And so the idea is, you start not with the intent of saying, this is going to be the one thing I'm going to do for the rest of my life, which is the fallacy that employees have, that whatever they pick is going to be the thing they're going to do for the rest of their lives. When in reality, it's, I just have to do a thing that I'm good enough at, that I can learn the game. And the thing is, once you start taking steps, the next step becomes illuminated. You trying to think 100 steps into the future when you have no context is irrelevant, because chaos is going to break your plan anyways. And so do what you know, exchange. I like service businesses to start because they are, in my opinion, the lowest risk to start, because it's just your time, right?
So service businesses meaning?
Do stuff for money.
Like mowing the lawn or cleaning windows, or
100%
like what?
service,
Cool.
Clean houses, like whatever. Like all of those are just service businesses, right? And they're fine. And a lot of people think they need to have some novel idea to start a business. When, I mean, the best, in my opinion, if you're getting into it, the best way to start a business is just look at what everyone else is doing and just try and do it better. Like, I mean, and there's obvious holes. Like if you've gotten your dry cleaning, it's like, can I do this in half the time as this guy? If I do the lawn care, what are the things people hate about lawn care? They leave the trimmings around the edges. They're all shitty. The person doesn't speak English that well. Like, well, cool. Then I've got advantages, right? So it's like, what are things that I already know how to do or I have past experience in? What things, because I have past experience, I know that other people struggle with, that sucks about this thing. And then I will solve that specific problem. And it could also be a problem that other people solve too. You just try and do a little bit better. Like it's just not rocket science. You know what I mean? And then you start selling your time for money. So yes, you're still trading time for dollars. You don't need to read Rich Dad Poor Dad just yet, right? You're still trading time for dollars, right? But the point is that you're trading that time for money in order to learn, not to earn.